Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we're going to do a Should You Pull on Warrior of Light FR. And this will have a mystery character with it. I'm pretty sure I know who it's going to be, but I'll throw out a couple of like low probability units that it could also be, just in case they decide to time travel a little bit. But we'll talk about that. So I'm going to kind of explain all the characters that are going to be involved on these banners. And then talk a little bit about each character, kind of give my analysis, and then talk about if I think you should pull on this banner or not, and if I'm going to pull on this banner or not, right? So what we know for sure will be there is Warrior of Light, Shadow, and Alphinaud. I think these three for sure will be there. These were on the base banner before in JP, so I think it's very safe to say these characters will be here. Let's talk about the side characters first. Alphinaud is, he's a fun character. I've always liked him. He's just not like ridiculously powerful. He's not very impactful right now. He's one of those characters, I think, that until he gets like a major upgrade in FR, he's not going to be too meta defining, but he is a nice little side character. He's a character I'd say if you get him on your way to getting another character, he could be a fun character to use. He's a character that he revolves around like a carbuncle buff, and he gets like two different carbuncles. So he has like a white carbuncle and a black one. The black one's typically the better one, and then he has like really powerful like HP and brave attacks. So he's very efficient with skill use, because of a lot of his main attacks you actually are using buttons that don't use up skill uses. He has a little bit of healing in his kit, and he has battery. Like I do like his battery. So he's definitely more of like a slot 3-ish type character. I don't think he's good enough to carry as your main support. He's definitely not like a main damage dealer. He would just be kind of like a nice complementary unit, I think, to other units, but not anybody you should be aiming for, right? Then we have Shadow. I actually really rather like Shadow. I think his kit is really cool, but he's going to suffer from the same thing as Alphinaud, being that Alphinaud and Shadow are kind of LD only characters right now, and if you are not like a mega utility or support, being an LD only character, it's really hard to compete with like BTFR characters for like damage dealer slots and things like that, right? Now Shadow does have really nice utility, so I do like him. I think Shadow's going to be like insane when he gets his FR. Like I think I'll go all in on Shadow at that point, because I think once he gets a nice upgrade and he gets brought back up to the top, he's going to be a very cool character. So for those of you unfamiliar with Shadow, he is a kind of a stealth-based character, so he has dodge in his kit. He works really well with other characters like Edge, who can guarantee dodge, because the way Edge is right now is he has, I think it's like a 60% base dodge chance or something, but he can use his AA to get 100%, but it's like very short. Like he can't upkeep like 100% dodge, but you pair him with someone like Edge, it's really cool. The thing with Shadow is he's very speedy. He steals turns a lot. He jump cuts turns a lot. One of his attacks will like put his attack like right in front of the enemy. He has his LD where it's kind of like a mini Terra, where like he uses his LD, then he gets like 3 turns in a row. But he has a really cool thing, and the reason why they don't give him like guaranteed 100% evasion all the time is because it's kind of busted. Because like when he dodges, he'll do a counterattack, and then he like jumps up and steals like a bunch of turns in a row. So he's really cool. He's one of those characters that he really fits the theme of a ninja, in that he doesn't like go and do like really big damage in one turn, but he's a character that's very speedy. He's going to steal a lot of turns, he's going to dodge, and he's going to keep poking at you with a lot of attacks. So he doesn't really fit the mold of like a really good FR era character though, because you don't want to eat up FR turns poking with little attacks, right? Which is why he's not like the craziest right now, but he can work well in like off turn comps, because he does follow-up attacks basically with his dog, right? Interceptor. So like Interceptor will go in and do attacks when he does, and then when he like dodges, then like he will counter with Interceptor and then steal turns. It's really cool, but like, yeah, him stealing a lot of turns isn't really the greatest for Force right now. So as much as I like Shadow, I think he's really cool, he's really not great in like the current meta right now. So like Alphinaud and Shadow, definitely don't aim for these characters. These, once again, they fit the typical side character mold, where if you get them, you can maybe have some fun with them, do some cool things with them, but they're not really something you should be aiming for, right? Now, Warrior of Light, that's going to be like our main talk here, right? And talk about what he is. So Warrior of Light, for those of you unfamiliar, basically since this guy's inception in the game, he's been a very valuable character to have as a tank, right? And he's probably the best shield tank in the game, and probably the best shield tank we've ever had. We've had some other shield tanks like 9, and 9's been very good at different points as well, but Warrior of Light has just always been so solid, right? The thing that's cool about Warrior of Light, he's a character that ages very well. He's a character that, like, in C90 era, you could use him as a C80 character, right? Or, like, in Shinryu, as we have it right now, you could still use him as like just a BT only character. He didn't need an FR, whatever, because he does what he does. Like his shields work well, whether he's got like a major upgrade or not. Like he's someone that can work well even if he's very outdated in terms of the meta. So he's a very safe character to invest in. He's a character that will always be relevant and good in some capacity, right? So the big thing is he'll put really big meaty shields on the party. These shields will keep your party safe, like ridiculously safe. And then with his LD, it makes it so that as long as you have shields to cover HP damage, even if the enemies try... Because the big thing with shields, right, is basically if enemies try to brave damage you, they reduce the shields instead of your actual brave. Like your shield has to get really completely depleted before they can actually hit your brave and then break you. So it makes you ridiculously safe from brave damage, right? Now in the past, the problem with shields is enemies could just directly brave gain and HP attack you over the shield. And that was always the weakness of it. Well, when Warrior of Light got his LD, it made it so that if you had enough shield to cover the HP damage, you just don't take the HP damage. So now he's just like completely shielding you like crazy. He does some brave gain on some of his attacks. He actually has like healing on his EX. It's not enough to like call him like your main healer, but it's decent enough, right? And so like, yeah, he keeps your party very safe. Now, the reason why I personally honestly haven't used Warrior of Light in a long time, and it's kind of a shame because he is really good, but the reason I haven't used him a lot in his last iterations is because his damage is pretty poor, and for a tank, he doesn't carry any counters, and like, so if I'm carrying so my thought always was, anytime I needed a tank, I would just always bring Gladio or Oron, like characters like this, Galuf, characters that they tank, and then they all, so like, overall, they might not be able to protect your entire party as well as Warrior of Light, but they protect your party enough, and then they're dealing a ton of counter damage. So the big thing Warrior of Light has always been missing from his counter damage, but he's very good at just keeping you safe, right? Warrior of Light also has had value in that he's a kind of a budget character, like where you've really never needed his BT. But let's talk about really quick, like his BT and then his FR, right? Because that's what you want to know, like, do I want to go in and get these weapons? His BT has very good auras. Like, I think they do get a rework here, and the auras get a lot better. The big, like, kind of the unique part of his BT effect is that your enemy or your party will brave gain based on your shield value. So if you have really big meaty shields, you get really good brave gains, right? So if Warrior of Light is working and you got his shields up, you got his BT effect up, your party is brave gaining, you're going to be capped at brave all the time, dealing a lot of damage. And it does actually have a pretty powerful, I think, HP damage up now. So there is some value to it. I would say his BT still isn't like necessary though. Like I would also say the FR is not necessary. You could use Warrior of Light still LD only, and I think you're still going to get good use out of him. Now his numbers are going to look better with better weapons on, but a lot of you might have the sword ultimate weapon. So even if you don't have his BTFR, you can still make his stats good, like, you know, better than what he would have. It's just you'd be missing BT auras and FR Echo. Now, I think the FR does have more value than the BT because Echo is really good, and it's nice to be able to Echo with his attack. His FR is kind of a cool one. It's one of these off-turn FRs that I really like, where basically off-turn, if enemies like attack you, and you just reduce brave damage in some way or absorb brave damage, which the shields do, right? The shields absorb, or they reduce your brave damage. And then if they try to do HP damage, that's basically nullifying or reducing damage there. So basically anything that the enemies do to you that gets reduced, you get like a 40% up. So off turn, that can be very powerful and that can really add up. And then on turn, I think Warrior of Light can get like 50% and your allies can get like 30. It's not like the craziest for on turn, but I think he is really meant to be used in aggressive fights if you're going to use his FR as the main one. But I think the value right now with Warrior of Light, the way I would use him is I would gun for his FR, but I would use him, he could be used in an off-turn comp or an aggressive comp, right? So let's say I had Warrior of Light, but then I still ran like, you know, Penelo and Garnet or something, and just was very aggressive on that end of it. And Warrior of Light is just there to make sure I don't die, and I can still run the rest of my FRs how I want. I could use Penelo FR, and then Warrior of Light, just on turn, he can just Echo for me, right? And do like a really big buff, really big AoE attack. So I do think there is a lot of value to Warrior of Light, right? Now, before I'll say overall if you should summon or not, let me talk about the mystery character, because I know some of you are wondering, what is this mystery character? So on the community stream, and they did the same thing last month, and I did get the character right last month, so I'm hoping I got it right again this month. But on one of the slides for Warrior of Light, it said ?BT ?FR. So basically what this means is there is a returning FR BT character. It would not be a brand new character. They wouldn't do that. It's going to be one of these special campaign banners that JP had, because whenever they have these special campaign banners, it's always like returning characters that are like kind of hype. But then, like, when they come to global, there isn't like a special campaign to fit them into, so they kind of slide them into certain banners, right? And I think that's what they're doing here. So, the character I think it's going to be is Minwoo, right? Now, I will throw out is just very slight chance, but there is a chance if they decide for whatever reason they do sometimes like to manipulate and move characters around timeline. They do like to do time skips, things like that. It has happened in the past where they have brought characters up as much as a month or two early. I think they actually brought some characters up as much as 2 months early. So it is possible that they could be doing some time warping here. So if they time warp, I'm just looking ahead to April, okay? In April, there is a special campaign banner that would have Squall and Jack Garland. Now, I think Squall is very, very ridiculously unlikely, so don't get hyped for Squall. And the reason why I really don't think it's going to be Squall is because he has a rework with it, and it's a pretty significant rework. And Squall is somebody that's going to be more of like a highlight, like, for next month. I don't think they're going to just like question mark slide him in early and say, oh, here's Squall with his rework early. I really think that's unlikely, so don't get too excited about that. Jack Garland, I think, is also unlikely, but has a decent shot because he's just a normal returning campaign character, and it would just be a month early. Now, their reason for pushing Minwoo back and doing that, I don't know why they would. It could be because for whatever reason they feel like Garland might fit better in this cycle. Maybe Minwoo fits better with something coming in April. Because here's the thing. Minwoo and Garland are both good enough that if either of them were in April, they would still be relevant, right, to run. So I really do think it could be either. But I'm going to say right now it's like 95% chance it's Minwoo. So that's what I would bank on, you guys, is that it's going to be Minwoo. But in the back of your mind, just be like, maybe it could be Jack Garland. Maybe. I'll give Jack Garland like a low, like 5 to 10% chance. And Squall would be like 1% chance. Like probably not happening. But if they did, I guess I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm going to treat this banner as if it's Minwoo, okay? So if this banner, and I guess I'll talk about Minwoo if you're not familiar. Minwoo's great. Fantastic. He's a character I've recommended a lot. He's a character that I went into his banner being like, I don't know if I'm going to summon or not. And then I just decided to go in, and so glad I did. I've used him a lot. He's been so good in hard content. Minwoo's main thing is he does set up a lot of traps. And with his BT effect, he gets double traps. And this is very powerful during FRs that scale on getting trap damage or off-turn damage. He's been very, very good for that. Does a ton of healing. His traps heal, so you're healing constantly off-turn. I think Minwoo actually makes a lot of sense with Warrior of Light because he's more of a defensive-based character. He works better in defensive team comps, which is kind of what Warrior of Light is set out to do. He fits the theme of keeping your party safe, like Warrior of Light does. And I haven't looked at Warrior of Light's fight, but my guess is it's going to be ridiculously aggressive. They are probably going to steal turns. They are probably going to come at you very hard with HP attacks a lot, because they need to showcase Warrior of Light shields. Minwoo is a character that would probably showcase well in Warrior of Light's fight. So that to me even further shows proof that it's probably Minwoo here. And he fits in because Minwoo had a campaign banner in this time slot. So to me it just makes sense. Now, in JP, Minwoo came on a banner with Enna Crow returning. Now, what they're going to do with Enna Crow, I have no idea. They may just find a spot, it could be in the second, because in the community stream, they only went up to like March 16th or something. So they're going to do, I think, a little bit earlier community stream, but they didn't actually do the second half of the month, which should have like VV and stuff in it. So maybe somewhere in that VV cycle, they're going to slide Enna Crow in. Quite possible, right? But Minwoo is a very excellent character to pick up. Now, Minwoo, I don't believe would have Echo here, right? I think this is just a returning FRBT character, but I do not believe Minwoo is getting Echo at this point. I could be wrong. You can let me know if the comments if I'm wrong, but if Minwoo got Echo, that would be insane, but I'm almost positive that it's not. It's more, once again, it's just a returning banner to give players a chance to get a character they may be missed on. So Minwoo is still an excellent pickup, even though he doesn't have Echo. So should you pull on these banners? Like most should you pulls, it's going to be very dependent on what your box looks like and what you need and what you want. If you are like a brand new character, like if your box is lacking a good tank, I think this is, yes, 100% very good pull. Now, I know another character coming up, I believe it's next month, is Rubicante, who is, I think, another very defensive-based character, which you could wait for him if you want to, but like I said before, Warrior of Light is just so solid, and I think if you decide to invest in him, it's a very safe investment in a character that will always age well. you know, even if Warrior of Light doesn't get another upgrade for 8 months to a year, he's still going to be usable because the shields are still going to shield, right? And if you have Echo, like, it's still free percent bumps on what you're doing. So I think if you are completely lacking in a tank, I think Warrior of Light is a very good opportunity to pull on. I think if Minwoo is in fact the mystery character, that just adds more value to the banner, because Minwoo is a excellent character in the meta right now. Shadow and Alphanaut aren't anything to go crazy for, but yeah, I think I could recommend pulling on this banner, because if you don't have Warrior of Light or Minwoo, you need off turn, you need tanks. I think it is a great pull. Now, if you're a veteran player, you've got a very established box. You've got the likes of Gladio, Oron, you know, Edge, you know, Galuf, characters like this that can basically party tank for you. You probably don't need Warrior of Light, but he's still, once again, like, never a bad idea to have this guy in your box. I'm gonna say this: if your resources are looking good, I think this is a nice spot to pull if you need a tank. Now, this month, for the most part, like, I think Garnet was, and I said this before, I did like my monthly like pull planning video. I had Garnet down as pretty much like the only like really highly recommended pull. I think everything else this month is fairly skippable if you want to. So if you are low on resources, you don't feel like you need the tank, or the way I describe Warrior of Light doesn't sound interesting to you, it is definitely skippable. Like, you would be safe to skip this. And even Minwoo coming back, like, he is very good, but it's not like you're missing out on another Echo character, so you could safely skip, because I know a lot of people are hyped for stuff coming up next month. I think next month is going to be like a little bit heavier on like hype stuff to pull for, so you may want to plan and save that way. But yeah, I would say if you decide to pull, it's a good investment. Warrior of Light's going to be a fun character. You can always wait for my character guide. I will do a character guide tomorrow night. I am considering maybe streaming this one. I haven't streamed in a while. We'll see. I'll probably put a post up maybe at least a half hour beforehand if I do decide to stream. We'll see what my tomorrow night is looking like, but I am kind of itching to stream because I haven't done it in a while. So maybe a Warrior of Light stream tomorrow. So anyways, guys, let me know if you're going to pull or not. Oh, by the way, I guess I should tell you if I am. Yes, my resources are ridiculously good right now, actually. So I am going to pull, and I think Warrior of Light will be a fun one. I do want to try to get his FR. I'm not going to go crazy for the BT, but I think if I get his FR, I would like that to have the Echo, right? So anyways, you guys let me know if you're going to pull or not. Let me know what you think of Warrior of Light. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.